There is something called organic junk food. So if the thing is processed, the reason why the processed food will raise your blood sugar there fast is that the food has already been processed. Let's say you take a potato, like a whole potato or a whole yam, compared to yam powder. The whole yam, when you eat it, is going to take your body time to break the long chains of carbohydrate in the yam.
This is Dayspring Life and Health Channel. Today we have a very important topic. As you can tell, we've been talking about how to stop diabetes even before it starts. And I have found a very important resource, a very great lady that has been doing this for a while, over a year. And she's been coaching people on dieting and health and issues that affect your health in general. Before I go further, I just want to introduce to you Lady Salomey, who is a registered nurse, a functional nutrition counselor, and who has been talking with people aside of regular job, doing this also in churches and other places, just to kind of help people get over their health issues. And she has her own personal story, which I think will be fun to get into in the later part of the video. So I want to welcome Lady Salomey. Lady Salomey, welcome to Dayspring Life and Health Channel.
Thank you so much, Adulting, for having me. I'm very excited.
So I think I've already done a lot of introductions. Is there anything else that you want to say about you that will affect our discussion that I didn't mention?
I think you already said everything.
All right. So our first question then is, what are some of the mistakes or myths that are out there about diet and diabetes?
One of the most misconceptions is that calorie in equals to calorie out. So, people think, especially when it comes to wanting to lose weight or managing diabetes, we say calorie in equals to calorie out. That means we're equating physical activity to what we eat. But what I want viewers to understand is that calorie is not just a calorie, because calories are different depending on where they're coming from. So let's say you eat 100 grams of calories of donuts. It's going to be different from you eating the same 100 grams of vegetable. You see, and our body is made up of hormones, and it's hormones that regulate everything that is in the body. So calorie in is not necessarily equals to calorie out, because every single calorie is different, depending on the source of the calorie.
So if somebody says that they don't want to eat carbs because if they drink sugars, if they drink soda and stuff, they're going to get diabetes, would that be a myth, or it's not really true?
I would say that is true, because the issue with sugary drinks, eating all those kind of food, the problem is the high fructose corn syrup that is found in these foods. And then also have regular, and sometimes they could mention 4 different types of sugar in this one particular drink. So by eating these kind of foods, definitely it's not the sole responsibility, but it's a contributing factor to someone getting diabetes.
Any other myth out there? Diabetes, you get it, you can't do anything about it. If you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it. Nothing. Is that true? I think that
is not true. You see, I know that when it comes to diabetes, genetic factor plays a role, and I know you made a video on that. Those are the unmodifiable risk factors, that family history, our race, and those things that we cannot do anything about. But as epigenetic is going on these days, they've made us to realize that your genes is what is going to load the gun. But what will pull the trigger is the environment. So the 3 other modifiable risk factors that you talked about in that video is what we could do based on what we do with those is going to pull the trigger of we getting diabetes or not. So the fact that your mom had diabetes, your sisters have diabetes, does not necessarily mean you could get it. But one thing we don't have to forget is that when it comes to way of eating, it's also traditional. So the way your mom eats is the same way you eat, unless you decide to do something about it. So that is where the thing comes in, and it becomes a misconception. Oh, my mom have it, I can't do anything. No, definitely we could do something about it.
That's a very good point. I like that analogy of loaded gun and not yet triggered, not yet pulled yet, right? Mm-hmm. So you may have the genes, but it doesn't mean it's automatically going to shoot unless you pull the trigger. I like that. I'll keep that in mind. All right. So next up, I know you are more into diet on your channel. What foods are there that usually raise blood sugar levels?
Mostly it's processed foods. Definitely processed foods. And when I talk about processed food, most of the time people think, oh, they have organic written on the packet. It means nothing. There is something called organic junk food. So if the thing is processed, the reason why the processed food will raise your blood sugar there fast is that the food has already been processed. Let's say you take a potato, like a whole potato or a whole yam, compared to yam powder. The whole yam, when you eat it, is going to take your body time to break the long chains of carbohydrate in the yam. But the yam that have already been processed into powder, that means you have already gone through one stage of digestion outside the body. So once you put it in, then it's like you want a fuel on fire, you put like gasoline and it goes boom. And within a short time, your body will burn it out. And then you're hungry again and you're reaching for the next stuff. So when it comes to our wheat, donuts, cakes, the sugary drinks we talked about, cereals, most cereals that we give to the children have a lot of these because most of them is made out of oats, and it's oats that has been processed. So it's different from you eating a whole oatmeal compared to you eating honey nut oat cereal. It's already processed. So that is where I want viewers to really pay attention to, is the processing that makes it go faster, raising blood sugars.
I like that. And I think you hit on that point that I also thought about the simple sugars, right? Mm-hmm. If you are drinking sodas, this has been reduced so much already into its simplest forms that the body can pick up so much. But if you were eating something, like you said, which is not processed, it takes time for your body to break it down. And then even the difficulty for picking it up, slows down your sugar levels, because it takes a while for the body to break it all down. All right, good point. Now, in the same line, if we want to eat good foods that will stabilize, I know we talked about those that shoot up the blood glucose levels. Are there foods that are also able to stabilize the sugar levels so that they don't raise them up, but then you don't get hungry too much, so it's stable in the day?
When I'm teaching clients, what I say is that let's think of a big tree with a lot of branches, and let's say a tree with a single branch. So when you think about it in that analogy, so when you eat your foods, like your vegetables that have a lot of fiber, these food have a lot of branches. So for your body to burn that fuel, it cuts one branch at a time. So it takes the body long time to break that food down. But when you eat something that is very simple, like let's say a bread, a donut, it's just a one branch. It goes in, the body just cut it down and it's done. Within a short time, you're hungry again. And that is where we tend to eat a lot, and we tend to peak our blood sugar and lead to all these complications. So if somebody is watching us and they are looking for ways to eat so that it will not peak their blood sugar to also cause these issues of diabetes, make sure you always have fiber with your food. Make sure you have moderate amount of protein, have some good fat with it. And then if you bring carbohydrate on board, which is okay, make sure it's not processed. It's in the natural form as much as possible. So for example, let's say you want to eat a breakfast. You could go for an omelet, which is an egg. You have a little bit of, let's say, stir-fried cabbage or stir-fried broccoli, whatever one you want. You add it to it, and you have some avocado if you could have avocado. When you eat this breakfast, it could take you even after 12 p.m. before you're hungry again. And because it's a lot of branches, so the body is taking the time to break it down, you're not going to get hungry for you to reach for any snack to peak your blood sugar. So always think slow train. You don't want things that will burn very fast.
Now, you said something that I think I have a follow-up on. You said that you could still eat carbs. So we agree you could still eat carbs. So diabetics still continue to eat carbohydrates? And if so, how should they go about it? Because we all have a mentality that, your sugar is going to go up and you don't want to. So what do you say about that?
I will say, when it comes to diabetes, we say that diabetes is that the cells are resistant to the insulin. They are not picking it up, or your pancreas is not making enough for you to pick it up because you have a lot of cells being overweight, or for some reason it's malfunctioning. But what functional medicine we are looking at and explaining to people is that diabetes is an overflow phenomenon. When I say overflow, let's put a bucket under a tap, and you fill the bucket with water, and then when the bucket becomes full and you keep filling it with water, it's going to flow over and get on the floor. That's why your cells are not picking it up. So because of that, when you are diabetic, you want to eat your carb and then a moderate amount of protein to make sure that all the time your blood sugar is stable. But when you want to bring on carbohydrates, I recommend you bring something like a yam, sweet potato, millet, those kind of carbohydrates in their natural form. And if you want to eat it, you eat it once a day, and make sure you have enough fiber, protein, and a good fat with it. That's it. And you don't have to go eating, like, let's say, oh, Salomey said I could have yam, so you eat yam for breakfast, yam for lunch, and yam for dinner. No. If you are someone with diabetes, you go for your carb once a day. And that is pretty much for all of us who are also trying to prevent it.
So the key is eat it, but once a day, and also in its natural form.
They're not processed.
Now, would you also say anything about the amount? Because if I'm going to eat once a day, I might as well eat a lot so that I won't get hungry. Would you say anything about that? Or is there a way? I think there is a way of making sure you don't get hungry, even though can you talk about that?
You see, the only thing that I say is that when it comes to Ezra Wellness, we do not count calories. Believe it or not, I don't. Because what we believe is that if you're eating the right foods, you really don't need to count calories. If you eat a whole big bowl of salad, there is no way you're going to gain weight from eating a big bowl of salad compared to eating a big bowl of fufu or rice or something else. So depending on what you're picking. So what I would say is that I'm not saying go for like a whole tuber of yam and eat it in one sitting. However, make sure you're eating enough to fill you up, because you don't want to reach for snack. That is where the problem comes. Eating in between meals, especially when you're diabetic, then your blood sugar is going zigzag up and down. You don't want that. So you have enough of the food that will fill you up, but make sure you have a lot of the stew or the sauce or the fiber with it. But don't worry about the amounts that you're eating, provided you have the good combination with other things.
Mm-hmm. So I think the other key point is to add more fiber, because the fiber fills you up, right?
Definitely.
So if you want to be full, you don't just binge on the carbs, just in moderation with enough fiber. Yes. All right. Now, what would you recommend for someone who is struggling to control their blood sugars, or someone who is borderline diabetes, diabetic? They tell people you are pre-diabetic, and it's like it's good news for some people, I think, because in that case you can change it. For some people too, they go and cry about it because it means they are definitely going to get diabetes. What would you tell somebody who is struggling with that?
Like I said, with the overflow phenomenon, if you have been diagnosed with pre-diabetes, that means you don't have full-blown diabetes yet. What you really want to do is that you want to use up the sugar in your cells. And how do you make your body able to use that up? You are not eating too frequently. That is the thing. You don't have to eat frequently, because there was some time that in the food industry it came that you eat 6 small meals a day. So people were eating 6 small meals a day. So every couple of hours they were eating. But now that diabetes is such on a rise, they're realizing that those advice was wrong. Because if your cells have the sugar inside the cell that they have not used it up, even if you come again standing at the door knocking that you have more sugar, they cannot take it. So the sugar will be floating around in your blood. So make sure, let's say you eat breakfast at 8 o'clock, don't eat a snack before lunch. Then lunchtime you eat your regular lunch, and then don't eat a snack again before dinner. And make sure you eat at least 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed, so that you have enough time for your body to process that food before you go to sleep. By doing that over time, you're going to help your body to be able to use that excess sugar. Because our body will store the glucose that we don't use in the liver as glycogen to be used later. But if you're not giving the body the time to go pick it up and use it, the body will continue to store, and it will get to a point the liver will not even be able to pick up again And these days, fatty liver disease have also been contributed to all this overeating and high fructose corn syrup and all that. So if you're really struggling to get your blood sugar under control, please, the frequency of your eating should be cut down. Once you're able to remove snacks, the next step is that you are looking to skip a meal. You don't have to eat 3 square meals every single day. Some days skip it and give your body time to use the stored food that they have.
Very good. So skip some meals and don't eat snacks, and obviously what she said here also, in moderation, including fiber.
Yep.
All right. Now, let's get on a little more personal level. What diet are you on? I realize that I've known you for years, so I'm talking from experience. You have lost some weight, and not only did you lose, but you have kept this weight off for so many years. What is your secret? Because I know that weight is associated, being overweight is, a risk factor for diabetes. So if you can share with us what helped you, we probably could also use that to prevent all these diseases like diabetes. Personally,
the reason what got me on this quest, Ezra Wellness, in our community about 5 years ago, a lot of people were dying here, the women, that story. So that is where the motivation came from. I want to really investigate it and see what's going on. Was there something in our diet or something that we were doing? I realized that women, we have a lot of issues as we age. And because of that, it's leading to all these diseases, cancer, and all these complications. So I went on a quest. I found this book, Dr. Gundry. That is where the motivation came from. I used his book. And after reading it and following his principles, I lost the weight. But now, how do I keep it off? On a personal level, I eat mostly plant-based most of the time. So let's say in the day, if I'm going to eat protein, I'll eat protein, let's say with one meal. I'm not going to eat protein throughout the whole day. Also animal source of protein.
Some of the proteins, you say protein, but we want to be...
So say normally what I personally would eat is salmon. I do eat eggs. Yeah, and mostly I'll get my protein also from plant source like nuts. I do nuts a lot. And most of the time I will do nuts like with my salad, or when I had a green smoothie, I could have some nuts with it in the morning. So depending on the day. And then when it comes to my main meal of the day, some days I could eat, some people say, Salomey, do you eat fufu? Yes, I do eat fufu sometimes. So when I eat that, of course, I'll eat that. I normally have okra with that. I don't have any other thing with it. But if I'll eat fufu for the day, that means probably I had green smoothie for breakfast and I'll eat salad for dinner. So that is how I will normally eat. And 2 days in the week, I do not eat. I eat only one meal at the end of the day. So, because remember I was talking about the frequency of the meal. So 2 days, I do it at the beginning of the week, Tuesdays and Fridays. You could pick whichever day work for you because on the weekend we tend to eat a lot. So normally Fridays I will not eat. I will eat one meal in the evening, and then the weekend, you have time to enjoy with family. Then the beginning of the week on a Tuesday, I also choose not to eat so that I will eat one meal. And some days I don't eat at all. I'll go to bed overnight. So this is what I've been doing and strategies. And of course, church always also have programs. Fast. And I get involved in all that. And I'm telling you, if you're not eating, you will not gain weight. And that is how I've been able to keep it off.
It's like that's going to be tough for a lot of people, not eating.
The thing is that when you do have blood sugar issues, it's hard to fast. I'll tell you that. Because when you don't eat, your cells are not used to that. They start to go crazy. They give you headache, you feel dizzy and all that. So when I work with clients, what I would normally do is that we have to first stabilize their blood sugar. So in the beginning, I'm not going to tell you to fast, of course. We have to make sure you're eating healthy foods, which will stabilize your blood sugar first. And then we start to skip some meals and see how you feel. That is when we dig into long fast and all that to help you to do it. And people see it after they get comfortable with it. They realize that fasting is one of the easiest ways because you don't have to think about what to eat.
That's a good thing to note. I think that is your particular way of keeping the weight off, not eating all the time.
That's it.
And also eating, you said lots of fiber and and proteins.
And protein, moderate amount, a lot of fat.
And you said when you eat carbs too, is once a day that you said?
Once a day, yeah.
Okay. All right, those pretty much easy things.
There's people that are following it and they see it's working.
Now, do you say that eating meat, it's not good because you didn't mention, say your sources of protein are salmon, nuts, and some, you didn't mention chicken, beef. Is there a reason why?
The thing is that beef and chicken, if I get a good sauce, I might eat that. Because I'm not saying I'm a vegan or anything like that, I will eat that. But what happened is that these days the meat in the stores have been processed. The same thing that we're talking about, the way that the animals are raised, they give them corn, they give them antibiotic, and it ends up in the meat or the chicken. So at the end of the day, if you are eating that chicken or beef, you are eating the antibiotic, the hormones, and everything that came with it. These days, you could see in the store they have grass-fed beef and grass-finished beefs. If you find it, it's good. Or if you could get organic source of chicken or pasture-raised chicken. Now I see that even locally in Connecticut, there are farms that are raising chicken that you could get it from there. So if you are able to get it from a good source, of course, definitely you could bring them in once in a while, enjoy that. But if not, you're always better off staying away from them.
I like the point of once in a while, because if you don't take it, it can become your daily meal and you binge on cholesterol too. All right. Good point. Do you have any family history of, diabetes or anything that pushed you into, doing this? Because I think most people do that when they have been challenged. Do you want to share anything?
I do personally. My mom was a diabetic and she died very early in life at the age of 55 from complications of diabetes. And diabetes, we all know, contributes to heart disease and all that. So she died very early in life. So that was something that was really heartbreaking for me because I had to come to the US. I did not see my mom again and she died. So that was something at the back of my mind. I know that I have the family history of diabetes. So definitely. And from learning from school, the debilitating and all the side effects that diabetes could bring, is really something that you don't really want to entertain if you're listening to us. Yeah.
Viewers, we're about to bring the discussion to a close, but before we do, I want to also give our sister the chance to tell us what she does. She mentioned Ezra Wellness. Tell us about what you do and how you help people. And if somebody wants to get to you, how would they get hold of you?
With Ezra Wellness, like Dr. Otton has already said, we normally see people. We have one-on-one coaching. If you're looking to lose weight, that is mainly what I do. Or if you have any other disease condition, like we're talking about diabetes, because sometimes some people are not overweight, but they're diabetic. So diabetes not necessarily mean that you're overweight, that is why you're diabetic, because sometimes the food that you're eating, the insulin resistant, and it's promoting a lot of stuff. So sometimes you could have a disease condition. So when you see Ezra Wellness, we do all that. And like the name Ezra Wellness, that is where I'm found on every platform. Facebook, Instagram, and I'm on YouTube. Let's connect. You could go to my website, EzraWellness.com. My phone number is there. You do that and let's connect. And if you're dealing with anything, we'll be able to help you manage it.
I want to say thank you so much for your time. And it's been an informative section. I'm definitely going to call on you again as we proceed with our diabetes discussion. I believe our viewers are going to take these very important ideas that you threw out on here and put them to practice. I have picked up a few, and I just want to say that I'm going to watch how much carbs I eat, probably eat once a day my food, and increase my fiber intake. And another thing that we could also add is exercise. She mentioned that whatever comes in must be burned, right? So we also exercise on top of that. Thank you so much, Lady Salome, and hope to get back to you again. Thanks for your time. And viewers, if you want to follow her channel, as she said, Ezra Wellness, I'm going to put a link also below in our description, and follow her. She's some recipes that she personally enjoys, and you will be able to enjoy them too. Well, until we meet again, beloved, we wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers.